Yes, dear students, 8th class, again we are here to discuss or to continue the same topic. Now, dear students, in our previous video, we have discussed about the wood steel and how it was produced by the smelters by purifying the iron. So, at that time, the wood steel required a highly specialized technique of refining iron. In Bihar, Central India, in every district, a number of smelters were there, those who used local deposits of ore to produce iron, which was widely used for manufacture or implement the tools of daily use. And they all work in their houses. They built furnaces in their houses with the help of clay and sun-dried bricks, and the smelting of iron was done by both men and women with the help of bellows. Bellows was a device which was used to pump air to just make a good flame of the charcoal burning. So I'm just making a picture by you can use in some of the old movies also such furnaces can be used. Here the wind blows, and with the help of one string they keep on moving this. Such kind of furnaces they were there. So they were called as the bellows, and with the help of one string they just put the string up and down, and with the help of that string the bellows they produce air on the burning charcoal. By the last 19th century, however, the craft of iron smelting was in decline. In most villages, the furnaces fell into disuse and the amount of iron produced came down. Now, here the question arises, why was it so? This condition was there. The one reason, it was the new forest laws that we have already read in chapter 4, that all the forests they came under the colonial government, and nobody is allowed to take anything from the forest. So the government, means the British government, they prevented people from entering the forest. So how could the iron smelters they find wood for charcoal if they are not allowed to enter? And definitely how they could get from iron ore? Earlier these two things were easily accessible to all the smelters, but when the colonial government they took the charge, they banned the common people to enter in the forest to take any of the thing, and all the even the tribals they have thrown out from the area. So how could be able to complete their demands when they are not getting the raw material? How they are able to produce the things? So like this they have ruined their work, and they could not sustain their occupation on the basis of for long. So many gave us their crafts and looked for their means of livelihood. In some areas, the government did grant to the forest, access to the forests, but in that also, the iron smelters had to pay a very high tax to the forest department for every furnace they used. So definitely this reduced their income, and when the things become costly, how they were able to just sell the things in comparison to the British good? Same thing was happening. Only less demands were there of the heavy goods, on which the heavy taxes were imposed, on which the price was increased. So people again they were not happy to purchase such kind of things where they have to give more money. So by the late 19th century, the steel and iron was being imported from Britain. Means now the India has become only the producer of the raw material. Means whether in the form of crops, whether in the form of minerals, we are producing everything. Our country is having good deposits of iron ore, still we are not making it. Still we are not using it as a raw material in our industries. Because the Britishers, they were happy to purchase the iron ore deposits. They are happy to get the iron ore deposit from the forest and directly send it to the Britain. From there, they can import the goods or the machinery and then sell it into the market for their work. And same thing was happened with the crops also. Many of the crops, they were produced here, and directly the crops like all the commercial crops like the cotton, they will send to the Britain, and from Britain the clothes were imported. Means the totally smashed economy at that time, because earlier we were fully interdependent on each other. We don't need anything from out of the country. But when they started ruling over us, they make us dependent on everything, and whole of our craft, they were ruined. They were destroyed by the Britishers. Britain ironsmiths in India began using the imported iron to manufacture utensils and implements. This lowered the demand for iron produced by the local smelters. By the early 20th century, the artisan producing iron and steel again faced a new competition. Now, as I've told you, later on I'll tell you. This year was 1904, when the hot month of April, Charles Weld, an American geologist, and Dorabji Tata, the eldest son of Jamshedji Tata, was travelling in Chhattisgarh in search of iron ore deposits. They have spent many months on a costly venture looking for sources of good iron ore to set up a modern iron and steel plant in India. Jamshedji Tata had decided to spend a large part of his fortune to build a big iron and steel industry in India. But this could not be done without identifying the source of fine quality iron ore. One day, after traveling for many years in the forest, Weld and Dorabji came upon a small village and found a group of men and women carrying basket loads of iron ore. These people were the Agarias, where they had found the iron ore. The Agarias pointed to a hill in the distance. Weld and Dorabji reached the hill after an exhausting trek through dense forest. On exploring the hills, the geologists declared that they had at last found what they had been looking for. Rajhara Hills had one of the finest ores in the world. But there was a problem. The region was dry and water necessary for running the factory was not be found nearby. The Tatas had to continue their search for a more suitable place to set up their factory. However, the Agarias helped in the discovery of a source of iron ore that would later supply the Bhilai steel plant. A few years later, a large area of forest was cleaned on the banks of river Subarnekha to set up an industrial township, Jamshed. Here, there was a water near iron ore deposits. The Tata Iron and Steel Company that came up began producing steel in 1912. So, this was the story of Jamshedpur and Tata Iron and Steel Industry. Dear students, always the way of success is not easy to come. Always you have to do a lot of work. Not in one day everyone become the king of the world. For that purpose you have to work hard everywhere. So in that era, when the government was not providing any facility, any security to the industrialization in India, then also Jamshedji Tata, he came up with his all in courage and spirit to prove himself better, to prove that he can stand in that scenario. And for that purpose, his elder son and some of the with the two or three peoples, they keep on searching the iron ore, so that they can develop one iron and steel industry. And definitely their searches, they came to an end when they went to a village with the group, and they found a hill that was a Rajhara hill and full of the finest ores. Then they started searching the new area where they can set up the industry, because to set up an industry they must require a proper transportation system, and definitely the water and electricity facility also. And in 1912, their, with all of their zeal and enthusiasm, they have started producing steel from the Tata iron and steel industry. And it set up a good time, because in the last 19th century India was importing steel that was manufactured in Britain for the expansion of the railways in India. And definitely their production increased due to the First World War in 1940, because at that time all the you can say the import and export stopped due to the First World War. So it was the first time when the iron and Tata iron and steel industry increased their value. And by the time of Tisco was set up, the situation was changed. As I have told you, in 1940 the First World War broke out, and steel produced in Britain now had to meet the demands of war in Europe. So imports of the British steel into India declined dramatically, and the Indian railways turned to Tisco for the supply of rails. And as the war dragged for the several years, the Tisco had to produce many of the shells and carriage wheels for the war. By the 1919, the colonial government was buying 90% of its steel manufactured by Tisco. So this was the big achievement for the Tata iron and steel industry. Up to that time, the Tisco became the biggest steel industry within the British Empire also. So by this, if you are ready to do, if you are ready to do anything, so the time definitely provide you that area where you can easily show your presence. In case of iron and steel, in the case of cotton textile industry, the expansion occurred only when the British imports into India declined. Because as earlier also I have told you that Mahatma Gandhi also was in the preference that we have to purchase the things from our own country. This will support our industrialization. This will give the work to our Indian smelters and weavers and planters also. And it also increase the demand of the Indian goods in our own country, India. So this happened during the First World War and after, as the nationalist movement developed and the industrial class became stronger. And the wars are not good, dear students, but the First World War gave us the time to stand on our own. So this also provided us the strength, so we can start struggling against the British. And the British government had to concede many of these demands in the last decade of the colonial rule. So this is all for the day, and next of the things the exercise we will discuss later on. Up to that, you have just find out the question from the chapter, and later on I will provide you the PDF to solve the answers.